Hello, I'm Moss. For my Cas Project, I made a knife for my sister using her husband's ashes in the clay mixture for the heat treat. Here are the ashes as well as some Hawaiian sea salt that I mixed in. So the Homon mix is primarily clay with some charcoal to act as a binder, as well as Matt's ashes and special Hawaiian sea salt that my sister wanted to put in. First, we do a thin slip to give it extra texture so the thicker stuff can stick to it, because we don't want it sliding off and falling apart. And what the Hamon does, or what this mixture does, is it insulates the back of the blade. So when you quench it and cool it rapidly, the back of the blade is insulated, so it cools less quickly, and a molecular difference in the two sides of it means that the edge, not covered, gets nice and hard and easily sharpenable, and the back stays nice and soft and bendable. Another thing you get from the Hamon is that really nice, beautiful, wavy pattern that you get when you highly polish the steel, and the two types of steel come out and show itself. Unfortunately, the smaller one didn't make it because the clay fell off, but the bigger one worked out really well. And you see these stripes are actually there for extra strength. It brings some soft steel into the hard steel, and that makes for a nice, strong, tough blade. Heat treatment is pretty much the most important part of making a knife, and things can go very wrong. However, this time, everything went according to plan. The blade got hard, the spine stayed soft. Here's the quench, or at least a visual of it. It was very dark and a small blade, it's hard to see. But heating up the oil anyway helps the quench go smoother, because if it's too much of a shock, it can stress the blade too much and it can crack. You can hear it biting on the spine of the blade, and the flail skates off the blade, or the edge, which means it's nice and hard there and soft on the spine. However, hardness does not equal toughness, which is why we have to heat it back up a little bit for a prolonged period of time to relieve some of that stress and make it stronger. And that's what this is. We bake it at 400 for a while. Here it is out of the temper. Then comes the arduous process of finishing the blade and make it look nice and shiny. First, you start with a low grit to get all the junk off, and then you work progressively higher and higher grits. Here's the Hamon. You can see the edge, that nice gray wavy line. Next comes shaping the handle. First, drill a hole through the top for the tang, and then shape it on the belt sander to get all the angles that I wanted, and leaving space on the top for the other segment of wood that I wanted to add to it. There it is, you can see. Then comes finishing, more sandpaper for hours and hours and hours. It's hard to find a flat surface sometimes, which is really annoying. I ended up using my knife sharpener. There's really fine stones on the wood handle to get it really nice and shiny. And you can see that beautiful curly maple there, as well as the Hamon a little bit. Much caffeine was consumed in the wee hours of the night to get both the blade and the handle so shiny and smooth and consistent. The small ridges and lines you see on the blade are from when I was forging it, because it's made out of an old file, because they have nice, reliable old steel. Here I am attempting to drill a hole through the tang, even though it was too hard and messed up a few drill bits. Next, I put masking tape on both sides of the wood, and then glued the masking tape together so I could keep them flush and on the same lines and polish them nicely together, but they aren't stuck together permanently, so I can take them apart enough for me to glue it all together. Here's the handle during the polishing process, getting everything cleaned up and nice and shiny and reflective. Then I textured the insides of the two pieces so there would be something for the glue to hold on to. Then I used a small file to make sure that first piece of wood was really locked together very well. Then I glued that on first. Then I ground some ridges in the tang for the glue to hold on to while I was in the handle. And that glue was 2-part epoxy with some charcoal from the original mixture, or that I used in the original mixture, as well as that same Hawaiian pink salt for extra meaning and fun. It's finally glued together and is one cohesive piece, but I still need to polish it more and then sharpen it. And then it's ready to be sent off to my sister, wrapped in an old karate gi that I dyed with acorns, some cleansing herbs, and some quarters that I twisted at her house when I was visiting. Here she is, holding the blade.